Warning: due to security purposes, our guest's identity is blurred for their safety. Please be advised that this episode's conversation contains graphic and disturbing material.
Hey, welcome to Lab, the podcast. We are back and grateful to be here with V3's Lab Initiative Director, Christina Kruse, and our good friend and partner from Oak Rock, working on the front lines of the fight against human trafficking around the world. It's an honor to get time with both of you, and we snuck this episode in. Last time we were talking to, we call you Neo from Oak Rock Foundation, our partner fighting the fight on the ground against human trafficking. And we were having this conversation about human trafficking and the work, Christina, that you're doing and we're doing through our lab initiative. And the topic of internet safety came up. And so I asked if we could reconvene to keep that conversation going. So that's why we're back so quick, but it's good that we are, because Christina, you have some brand new headline, really exciting headline news from your corner of V3's ministry. So I want to turn it over to you, and then we'll welcome Neo from Oak Rock, and we'll get going.
Perfect. So, hi everyone. So, on the lab initiative front, we have done a reblend of the Freedom Roast, and we did that a couple of months ago. We included our church partners, so we had 4 pastors join us, which was fantastic to get their feedback, and we just tweaked the blend a little bit, and now we're going to have a new Freedom Roast blend come out here very shortly. We've also revamped the label, changed up the color. We're going with a yellow so it stands out a bit more on the shelf and online to just raise the awareness. And we're also going to have a QR code on the bag this time. We did not have a QR code last time, so they can get right to the V3 website and the V3 team, and then they can purchase a bag from there as well. So some fresh revamping going on. I'm sure if you follow us on social media, we'll let you all know when that is 100% launched, but very happy to have a new blend. I think it's going to be, I guess was kind of lazy on the tasting. I didn't do the full cupping. I just got to taste like the final 2. And the team did a great job. And this coffee was good enough just to drink black. And I'm not a black coffee drinker, but it's going to be an amazing blend and just an amazing roast. So we're really appreciative of Buddy Brew to be able to be open to tweaking that for us. And then having, we had 4 churches. So we had First Pres Tampa, we had South Tampa Fellowship come and participate. We had Covenant Life, and we had Redeemer City here in Tampa participate. So that was awesome to have the pastors there actually representing and giving us feedback on what their congregations think about the blend. And we look forward to being able to give more and more money. I'm sure we'll segue to Oak Rock here in a second, but to be able to give money to like organizations that are boots on the ground, like intentionally fighting human trafficking. So it's really exciting news, and I'm sure we'll have an official rollout here soon.
Yeah, good work. It's so exciting to see. Every time we get together, I say you've done such a great job of taking the seeds that were planted years and years ago for the Lab Initiative and really nurturing those and expanding the partnership with Buddy Brew. Talk a little bit really quick about how those dollars get to Oak Rock and why we're directing particularly all of the proceeds that come from the coffee sales to Oak Rock, and how that connection was made and why that's so important to us.
So Buddy Brew is wonderful, and $3 from every bag sold, regardless if it's in store or online or through a subscription, directly to the Lab Initiative Fund, and then we take that money directly. There's no overhead, there's no administrative fees, and that goes directly to Oak Rock. And that relationship developed really from a relationship my husband and I had from an organization we were already donating to. We were already stewards. We were already giving and tithing, and that organization was asked to fill a different role, and now is fighting human trafficking, which I think Neo can maybe expand on. Like, this was never something that they thought that they'd be doing. So it's amazing to see God's hand. I mean, I also never thought I'd be helping out in ministry. So God definitely leads us on paths that we did not expect. But it's beautiful to see all these relationships come together and, you know, be able to connect all of you to do good.
Yeah. We'll circle back to Buddy Brew, but Neo, I'm going to throw it your way because the partnership with Oak Rock was really, really great. We support local organizations. We've given a lot of money here locally in Tampa. We've resourced the police department here in Tampa when the Super Bowl was coming to town. So we've been able to do some really, really creative and innovative things. The Oak Rock partnership is exciting because you just mentioned it. There is a proactive edge, a forward leaning edge to the niche work that you are doing. And I wonder, speak to that a little bit, just about how the work Oak Rock is doing, it plays a part in this bigger ecosystem of fighting human trafficking, caring for survivors. There's so much good work going on around the world, and Oak Rock's playing a particular part. So talk a little bit about that part and how the dollars that Christina is helping to stand up through the lab initiative make an impact at Oak Rock.
Yeah, and thank you guys. It's an honor to be back with you. This is always exciting for me to just hang out with you guys. I appreciate your friendship and I appreciate what you've done for us. And it's fun because, this is a unique setting where people, that $3 that you're talking about right there, Christina, there's no administrative, there's no salaries, there's nothing like that. Then it goes to Oak Rock where there's no administrative fees, there's no salaries. It goes from $3 all the way to the ground, to the boots on the ground. And that's unique. That's
That
unique and
is.
special. But yeah, we were talking, and Zach, here's what's going on. The legal side in our country and the officers, they do a great job. They're undermanned and they're underfunded. We all know that. But their role in this whole battle against internet crimes against children or child sex abuse material that's being out there, we call it CSAM or ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children. This whole war, they have to be reactive. In other words, something is reported and then they have to find out about it and all that. On our end, what we're allowed to do is we are proactive. We go after the bad guys before somebody report, because people don't report them. That's the problem. They don't know who they are or how to. We have the ability to do that with let's just say, some equipment that we have access to that we have. We're the only non-government agency that has this equipment. So it's put us in the light. God dropped that in our laps. It's a miracle. And it's totally legal, but it's a miracle. And then our task force, what we did is we went and put badges. In other words, you have to have officers. You have badges. The sheriff carries with himself, jurisdiction. He carries with himself the authority. There's a lot of things that go with that. But in this battle, people will tell us, "Oh, I've got a friend that he can go online and he finds bad guys and all that." Well, number one, that's a felony. Number two, it usually interrupts work that's already being done. You have to have a badge. So what we have done, what's unique to us, is that's what we've done. Now, our guys they carry the badge. They are officers of the law, all that. But their local, for instance, sheriff's departments don't fund them. Their funding comes from we fund them. So they're not directing traffic at the local school stop. Never. They have one purpose, and it is this. We have our lab is obviously very sealed and stuff like that because of what all is there. I can't even walk in there. I can, carry you there, Zach, and you know that, but we can't go past probably the front door because everything else in there, it would be a felony for you or me. We don't carry a badge. We can't see it. So the keys that we've gone through since 2015 to put us in a position so that we can work with Homeland, we can work with FBI, we can work with the organizations, the SBIs of any state, we can work with them, and it gives us the ability to move fluidly and to catch the bad guys and things that they don't have the equipment to find them with, or the manpower or the money to do it with. Just the equipment alone is very, very expensive. It will run us over $250,000 a year to keep doing what we do with just the equipment. So we can't do that without people that are saying, go fight this fight with us. Our vision is to build an army of protectors. That's what we want to do, that will stand with us so that we know the foundation is built so that obviously the money works for money and it just continues to grow, and we don't have to stop any projects. We don't have to slow down a project to go try to raise funds. These guys can't take time away to try to do that. We're the source. And so we vet organizations. Our task force, we have a lot of partners. Well, we have very select partners. I'll put it like that. We totally vet every one of them. They have to send reports to us on what's going on, and we basically have a partner, have someone with us that's boots on the ground with them. So everything is monitored. In other words, here's what I'm saying. We want to know they're doing what they're saying to do.
Yeah.
If they're doing something in some other areas. And we have a lot of areas that we cover. So internationally, obviously, we're very careful with who we're working with and what's going on. We go internationally so that we're with them in those settings. But the big focus and the focus today is, and our big passion is right here in America, because we've got a battle that we have never had before in this country. And so that's really where we are. In fact, when you start looking at where we are today, today's generation is the most vulnerable generation in the history of America. Now, that's a bold statement, but that's where we're at right now. People don't understand the numbers, and we can go through those and what's happening and how subtle this is. And that's kind of what we're going to discuss. But anyway, thank you guys for keeping us out there in the fighting right on the front, on the front line.
Yeah. We just appreciate, and Christina, I'm so grateful that the introduction was made, because I mentioned Isaiah 117, that project, and the niche. There was a particular little gap that they're solving. And we get excited about that at V3, just thinking outside of the box. And so Oak Rock, the work that's being done there is so exciting, because again, there's so much to be done for survivor care and for education and for employment opportunities. I mean, you could just go on and on and on about the impact layers to try to stop human trafficking, to fight it, to help those who have been caught up in that tragedy. And the proactive work is so important. And Oak Rock's specific and niche contribution in that area, especially in internet crimes, and leveraging the power of technology to go actually out and find out what's being done so that it doesn't have to come to an abduction. And I woke up this morning to a 10-year-old abducted in California, and thank God she was rescued, but not without life-changing and trauma to her little self. And she was 10 years old, and the person who abducted her, she met on Roblox, a game that you mentioned, Neo, last conversation. And so I think that's why I get so excited about the niche work that Oak Rock is doing. Before we get into the conversation on internet crimes and how we can think differently about that, Christina, you hear everything that Oak Rock is doing, and you're day to day trying to move the needle by $3. Does it matter? Like, when you think about the checks that we're able to send, and people listening to this conversation, I think sometimes we get paralyzed by going, well, what does it matter if I start buying a bag of coffee? How do you think about that? Like, what keeps you forward leaning? I've mentioned it before, but there's a wonderful movie from the Angel Studios put out, Cabrini, and the main character in that story was just a force for good. And you have that same fire in you. And so how do you think about it when you think about going $3 at a time to try to resource this incredible work?
I think I am fortunate that I am like very infinite, like thinking. Like, I don't think a whole lot in the short term. I don't know if that's just because I don't necessarily do anything fast in my life. I've always just kind of been like slow and steady. So it really excites me at $3 a bag. And I think if you look at it from like an investment perspective, like, I'm sure we all wish we were getting enough of a return in our bank account to get $3 on every $20 spent or $100 in the account. And I don't think we're getting that right now with the economy. So, I mean, $3 can really add up super, super fast. And I think we talk a lot in all of our conversations about like the tipping point. Like, at some point, someone is going to hear something, someone is going to have a connection where this is just going to be beyond us. And I think that is really exciting to me. So every day it's like, maybe this email, maybe this podcast, maybe this conversation, maybe this bag of coffee that I just gave somebody as a thank you is now going to be like the catalyst for things that are not yet seen. So for me, I think, yes, you have to be patient. And I think I'm inherently a pretty patient person, but we have to look at like the long game. And I think so much we want like what is for us. And I think this conversation that we're going to have is really for the future. And that's what we have to think about. Like the hard work I'm doing now isn't for me. Like it's not to set myself up. Like I'm not like trying to set myself up in some like, cush situation. Like I'm thinking like, okay, what I'm doing now has to like work in the future, and it has to be for the next generation and the generation thereafter. So we're the ones doing the legwork. Oak Rock is doing the legwork now, not for them, but for the future. And I think if we have that mindset that like what we're doing now is just laying the foundation for what is to come, it makes the $3 look a lot more important.
Yeah. No, I love that. And you think about Dave and Susan who own Buddy Brew, and we can say, well, $3 doesn't seem like a tremendous amount of money, but essentially they're cutting all of the profit from, I mean, this is high-end coffee. It's really, really well-sourced coffee, crafted products. And they're cutting basically all of their profit out to say, we want to direct it toward this fight. So that's not nothing. And I think what I get excited about is we're trying to shift one consumer choice. That's all it is. We're already buying coffee. And so if even if this conversation, if you share it with one other person and say, hey, I heard about something really interesting, really outside of the box, an organization doing forward-leaning, proactive work again in the fight against human trafficking, and there's an organization trying to fund that, not by going out and asking you to give more, but just asking you to participate by making one shift in your consumer habits. And all of a sudden, we get 10,000 people a month buying one bag of coffee, and there's $30,000 a month going to fund this work. And you just heard that. I don't want to get into the technology side, but the ongoing licensure to be able to use these tools at $250,000 a year. Think if we could fund that by supplying what we already doing what we already do. We all drink coffee, and so we can make this change and get to the hard work. So, Neil, back to you. Let's talk about that hard work of the internet crimes. Start with what are we facing? Really, let's just confine it to America and kind of the landscape of our neighborhoods. And you said that this generation is the most vulnerable generation. What are our kids facing today that you see that maybe we don't see?
Okay, good. There are 84.9 million images of child sexual abuse material that's being traded on the internet today. I mean, you're talking 85 million images. Now, where do these images come from? Our kids. They're not making these. Our kids. 500,000, 500,000 predators scour the internet every day, targeting children between 12 and 15. I'm not even talking about how many target even the younger ones, which are even easier prey. But 1 in 5 children, when we survey, they've admitted to being contacted or solicited by an online predator. So when you start looking at it, your kids know it. That's what I try to get parents to understand. Your kids know what's going on. They know it. They're not talking about it to you because they're afraid you'll take away their phone, but they know it. That's exactly what's happening. In fact, what frightens me in this whole arena is the speed at which these predators can groom and manipulate these children, because it has to go through a grooming stage. It's not just instant. It's grooming. This is why it's exploitation. They're exploiting these children. They start grooming them. But in less than 19 minutes, a skilled online predator can gain the trust of an unsuspecting child. Now, children are basically trusting anyway. They're young. They're children, and so they exploit their innocence. They use that curiosity of a child to lure them into this dangerous web. Is what really is going on. So, where does it come from? Basically, the number one avenue are these games. It's the cell phone. It is that, you know, I'll use you as an example. Here's a thought process. If and you just take yourself, or let's take a 35-year-old, okay? if I talk to most parents that are 30, 35 years old and say, with you and your child, you've got a generational gap. They don't understand that. They think I have a generational gap, or, because I'm older than that or whatever, but they don't understand. If you take a 35-year-old with a 12-year-old child, 35 years, okay, with a 12-year-old child, that's 23 years ago when they were 12. So if we go back 23 years ago when they were 12, that's 2002. There are no smartphones. None. That's 2007. So I'm sorry, there's a generation gap. We as parents don't realize, wait a minute, we're not even on the same page with our kids, and yet your kids know it. And the kids, when we start interviewing them, are crying out, why won't my parents help me? That's a sad commentary, but that's where we are. So let's illustrate it. Okay, Zach, you've got a 10-year-old daughter. Let me ask you this. Can she swim?
Absolutely.
Okay. So would you allow her to just go out and go swim somewhere by herself?
0% chance, and especially in Florida because of the alligators.
Right. It's not even a chance. But let's say this. Let's say that your 10-year-old daughter, and she probably is very trustworthy. And let's say that she's an excellent swimmer, not just a good swimmer. She's been in competition swimming. She's an excellent swimmer. You could trust her in the water, all that. Would you let her go out by herself at 10 years old?
Not unsupervised. No way.
No way. No way. Let me give you an example. I'll pull one state out. 29 drownings last year in that state. Okay? 29 drownings. 30,000 children exploited sexually. What parents have to realize, you would never let your 10-year-old go out and swim by herself, yet we will take our 10-year-old and put them in the room by themselves and let a cell phone babysit them. That's where we are. That's why your kid, you have to understand, a child is not safe in the privacy of their room anymore. That used to be a safe haven. They're at home. Today, they are not safe there. It's crazy because there's games being played on the phone, on the game, whether it's Roblox, like you said. I may have given the illustration, but I'll give it again for people. So we had a 9-year-old child playing Roblox, makes a friend, and they start playing. The friend is not 9, the friend is 40 something. The friend is not even here, the friend is in Germany. Now, people are sick. Let's just admit it. They're sick. The 40-year-old pedophile, quote unquote, as his confession, falls in love with the 9-year-old, grooms the 9-year-old so that the 9-year-old will just simply take a picture in your underwear. You see the program start moving, okay? Until it gets way beyond that. Well, the 9-year-old's playing, and the pedophile saying, my parents aren't home, they're at work right now, things like that. So this little 9-year-old does the same thing. I'm here, my parents are at work, but they leave me here until, you see the gathering of information, the grooming. The 40-year-old shows up at his home. Fortunately, the parents were home. So he was arrested. But that close to his son, to a child being in Germany, that we would have never found. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
A simple game. It could be Minecraft, Fortnite, Among Us, Apex Legends, Call of Duty. It could be Discord. Now, that's not a game, but it's still a concern for us. Okay? We're still seeing things happen there. These are games that parents are going, yeah, my kid plays all these games. Well, who are they playing with? Who are their friends that are playing with? Do you know the friends? Do you know what's going on Snapchat, Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram? I mean, we could go through all of that. Do you know who they're talking to and what's going on? Because who they're talking to It doesn't. It's probably not somebody their age, to be honest with you, that's posing in those settings. That's where we're at, and it's impossible. This is what I want parents to understand. It is absolutely impossible to identify a child predator by looking at them. You can't do that. They don't fit the stereotype, is what I'm saying. You know, a, a, a predator, a child predator day, it's not that creepy guy driving around in the white van. That's not who it is. These online predators, they're the most dangerous predators that we face as a nation. There's 500,000 of them. It's a war. They've got an army. And because our children are left with their mobile devices alone in a bedroom or whatever, they are unprotected, they're vulnerable, and they're just targets. So these predators that we can't identify, they work in our communities. They're good working people. They may own companies there. They go to our churches. They may have leadership roles in our churches. Uh, what we have to understand is these predators live among us. They may live right beside us. You know, we had a grandfather story, I think I've illustrated, but a grandfather where it all ended up leading to the exploitation and then the raping of a grandchild, which is really sick. But he owned a business in the community and was an elder at the local church. They live among us. People have to understand that. So that's our battle. That's our battle. It's an incredible, incredible war where we've got an enemy we can't identify. They could be our next door neighbor. Our generation, our children are the most vulnerable they've ever been in history because why? Their room is no longer even safe. But the battle is this, and you know, this is what we have to understand. My message and our message, very simply, is parent your children. That's the problem. The problem is in the home. We've got to get back to being a parent. We've got to get back to parenting our children. We've got to be engaged in the life of our children. Parents need to sit them down. They have to learn to have them with their phone in front of them, not as a babysitter for a phone. Not now. I'm sorry, parents. And here's the thing, parents, you need to understand. Your kids know everything I'm talking about. Everything. Because we have the conversations with them. And they do say my parents aren't protecting me. Because here's what happens. They're vulnerable. And we put them in this position. If a kid connects to the internet today, if they connect to the internet, they're vulnerable. I'm sorry, but that's where we are. That's what's happened. That's what's happened to us. So you got to sit them down. You got to have these conversations about, you know, have people ask them to send a picture. Have they been sent pictures? And they have, and they're friends. Now here's the ministry side of this. And I think church ministry, youth leaders, they have to start saying, what is the deal we got? What's their problem they're facing? What's after? This is the problem. And what's going on is it's all being normalized. Because parents would say, I can trust my child and all this. Mom, dad, you don't realize all this, the nudity and all the stuff that they send back and forth on pictures, it's normalized. In their world, not in ours, in their world, it is very normal. We have they've been desensitized to this whole idea, this concept that it's sin. They have no concept of that. Yeah, when my kids go to church, they know that. I'm telling you, you sit down and you're going to be shocked at things like, oh, everybody does it. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a picture. Well, number one, just a picture. Remind your kids those never go away. They're out there and they're out there to stay. So this is where we are. This is what's going on. We've got this generational gap. We've got this, I trust my kid, but if you're a parent and you're great at it as a parent, you've brought them up with a real biblical worldview and all this, you need to realize that there's still a grooming period that is going to try to take place with your child. And cell phones continually being used as a babysitter are just opening that door. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
And so my message is that, Zach, if you and I went fly fishing, we'd throw some flies out there. If we don't get anything, we'll roll it back in. We'll change the fly and we'll do it again till we get the right fly that the fish start biting at. Here's what's happening today. These predators, they're just throwing an empty hook out there and seeing who bites. It's that easy for them.
Yeah.
There are case after case after case that the kid knows that person's 30 years old. But here's the key. They're the age of their parents, and their parents tell them they can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. And that 34 or 5-year-old's pretty cool. And that 34 or 5-year-old tells them, you don't have to listen to them. In fact, I'll come pick you up and we'll have some fun. This is where it goes. I'm telling you, we've never had to deal with this. And so we've got to get dad trusting God and dad leading the family. Now, dad can delegate some authority and all that, but dad needs to understand something. Dad, you can never delegate responsibility and accountability. That's our biblical mandate. We cannot delegate. And we've got to have dads being dads. And if it means being a little tough sometimes, that maybe you don't need to have that, or if you're going to play a game or something, you're doing it right here with all of us. You're not doing it in a room by yourself. There's got to be the responsibility of dad to step in and say, this is how we're going to do it. So that's our war. That's where we're at. That's what's happening in this country. We've never dealt with it before. And like I said, if you're and law enforcement people that are hearing this, no, we're frustrated. What can we do? I mean, because they're stuck. They like I said, they're undermanned. They're under, finance to do it. They don't have the ability. And so this is where our task forces start coming in and what we started creating. And the vision is obviously to build these in every state. I actually think, and I know people think, oh, you're just a dreamer, but no, I'm not. I actually believe that this is one arena that we can make a difference in, that we can shut down. People think this is never going to be shut down now. It's too far. It can be shut down if a predator in every state knows if I do something, they've got the ability to find me and they've got the ability to put me in prison for life. That shuts it down. That really shuts it down. And so, this is a war we got. It's a war that we've got to fight like that. And it takes, some of the abilities that we have and then money to do it. That's where we're at. So that's why you guys are so significant. And the folks that are hearing this and drinking the coffee and all that, they need to know they do make a difference. They really do.
I'm Zach Elliott, Executive Director of VUVIVO, and together with our partners, we are recovering the deep Christian tradition of standing behind the arts by making significant investment in visual art, music, and literature. We're working together with some of the world's most gifted fine artists, composers, and authors to wondrously reveal Christianity and invite people to know God personally. This work to recover the tradition of standing behind the arts is going to take a fresh generation of patrons committed to resourcing and releasing these great artists to use the highest and best of their gifts to the glory of God and for the good of the world. You can join us in that work by becoming a V3 partner. Reach out for more information or go to vuvivo.com/support to join us in standing behind the arts. Yeah. It's wild to hear those numbers. I go back to where you started with, I don't know if it was 82 or 89
85 million, basically, yeah.
85 million images, 500,000 predators, like 500,000 predators. I was at a park the other night, and this is why I wanted to have this honest conversation. I like to think that I'm a decent dad. Like I work pretty hard at it, pray about it. We've got a great wife. We love our kids and we're very intentional with our kids. We were at a park the other night and the ice cream truck rolled by with the creepy thing going on. And I was like, I'm not going to be more than 7 feet from my kids. Right. Like, and the most innocent ice cream truck driver ever, but my hackles go up and I'm on guard and I'm watching. I don't ever feel like that when I'm in my home and I know that my son is playing a game online and I'm 7 feet from him in my house. I don't have that same creepy feeling that somebody is watching him. And, so I think we all have to be honest about that. Like it is a generation gap that I don't think this. I'm going to give Riley some heads up because Riley, I want to, if you're up for it, throw you a question. Riley's our producer and is still a generation gap. But Riley, when Neo was talking about the nude images being normalized, just kids feeling like that's not shocking, I saw you nodding your head. You were like, you were affirming, like, yeah, that's normal. That is not normal for me. Like I think our generation, if you would have, first we didn't have the technology to do that, but when we started to hear that kids were sending nude images of themselves, that was shocking. You kind of nodded your head like that's not a thing. Chime in on that. Is that for you, for younger generations? Do you feel like that's been normalized?
Oh yeah. I mean, growing up, I was in high school, 3 years ago now? I mean, growing up high school, even in middle school, like that was a normalized thing. And even just like with a really toxic culture for guys growing up, like that was something cool to celebrate. Like, oh, we got a girl to send us a nude. Like, this is awesome. And it's like, this one, it's not awesome, but like it's so normalized and it's like there's a culture of it even celebrated too.
And so kids don't even feel a sense of fear, shame, risk. It's just like that's what you do. It's part of the culture of middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Riley said it right. Middle school. I talked about that, I think, last time on that middle school. How many of you have a phone? And let's ask it like this: how many don't? 3. And then those of you that have a phone, how many have received a picture or been asked to send a picture? Every one of them. That's middle school. And that's what Riley's talking about. Middle school. I mean, the rest that we made yesterday, hundreds of pictures, beginning with 8-year-olds. 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 How do I say this? 8-year-olds acting out things. We put it like that.
Yeah. This is a shocking statistic that you start hearing that most kids, I think you would know, Neil, better than I would, but I heard that it's the early exposure to pornography. The average is 9 years old. Kids are kind of introduced to pornography, and pornography being like a false image of a fictionalized version of acts and things that are being normalized, that then kids at 9 years old are being exposed to that. And we go, oh, you're blowing this out of proportion. It's not that big of a deal. And that's why we're having this conversation, because 30,000 some kids in the state that you mentioned were like,
yes, exploited.
Their lives forever changed, and these images don't go away. And the way that it's impacted them in their biopsychosocial self for the rest of their life. And so it can feel overwhelming. Christine, I want to ask you, you just read a book that kind of reminded us that it's actually, even though we can feel really afraid of these things, there are ways to just remember that we can let our kids be kids. And I thought that was an important point in this conversation too. So I'll share a little bit more about that.
Well, everything you guys just said is like spot on. The book I recently finished is called The Anxious Generation. And I heard about it from another Christian organization that we partner with, Apologetics Inc. And it was a really good read. We don't have children yet, but I have lots of friends who do. And I think that when I do have kids, I will probably be a very different parent because of the things I've been exposed to. But they talk about a lot of these things. And unfortunately, a lot of the images get sent child to child because of blackmail. Maybe they have another picture of the kid doing something stupid and they're like, I'll release this picture unless you send me a nude picture. So that does happen. There's a lot of that going on. And then the book talked a lot about the pressures of, we don't put enough pressure on social media. Like they're supposed to be 13 to be able to sign up for an account, but there's no accountability to be able to verify that. So unless these social media organizations or even the games, like it's got to be more than just a check the box. Like we basically, to like elaborate on that like swimming situation, like we just didn't like let them go swimming. Like we built the pool, we put the sharks in it, and then we said, go have fun, kids. Like we set them up for failure because we aren't putting any stop gaps and we are not allowing them to be protected. And I grew up in, I'm not, significantly older. I think I understand both sides of the spectrum here, but I grew up where like we played outside and I had dirt under my fingernails and I picked up any creature that would let me pick it up and bring it home. I had, Lincoln logs and I had artwork and we did a lot of like activities together as a family. But I also remember like getting AOL and having chat rooms. So like I understand both sides of this. And I think it really has to be a team effort. Like we all have to be on the same team, regardless if you have kids or not, or, what generation you fall in. We cannot like let kids have personal computers. They shouldn't be taking their iPads to their room. I know like some internet browsers, you can just turn them off after a certain time. Those are all like safeguards we need to put in. And then I do think we need to put pressure on these social media and other like phone outlets. I think the guy who wrote the book said the age is 13, but he actually thinks it should be moved up to 16 because he just doesn't think a 13-year-old should be able to sign a contract with a company, which makes a lot of sense. And those pictures are there forever. It's not the days of, you have to go get film developed and you have to get a negative out and all this stuff. It is very real and it can really damage someone for like the rest of their life. So if parents want to like deeper dive into this, I definitely recommend reading The Anxious Generation. There's also an audiobook version if you like that. But it was really, really eye-opening on what we have done as a culture to allow this grooming to happen. Like we basically gave kids a key to the Ferrari and they don't even know what they're doing with it. And something that stuck out with me about the book was that essentially the internet was created for pornography. Like that's the whole reason it exists. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty like poignant thing to say. So I think that there's a lot more things that people are exposed to. I can't tell you, it hasn't happened recently, but I've mistyped a browser search before and been like, whoa, this is not where I wanted to be. So like even a misspelling can take you down a rabbit hole that you just didn't think you were ever going to go down. So it really is something that we have to be vigilant on, and we have to have conversations. And I think this is a super important one to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for bringing up the book. Remind me of the title of the book again.
The Anxious Generation.
Yeah. I think the more we can read, have these conversations, I think I'll say that that's my vote for step one is take this podcast and have a conversation at your table. And as parents, what are we doing? What are the norms culturally at our home? Are we allowing parents or kids to have phones in bedrooms? Neil, help us just like with a quick tactical list of kind of standard operating procedures that should be just true. And I just said the word should, and everybody's family's different, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to skip past that and say there's probably some basic rules, like with firearm safety or swimming, that we would say these basic things, don't violate them because people are put at great risk for it. If you could put like 4 things on that list that are just like the essentials of internet safety. I hear you saying no technology in private spaces alone with kids. That would probably make the list. But what are maybe 3 others, 4 others that you would say those are essential? Like we shouldn't even have to debate it.
Yeah, a 10-year-old doesn't need a cell phone. let's start. Let's start there with the ridiculous with what's going on.
Let me ask you about that. You say not 10. And we're not all claiming to be experts on this, but where do you think it's appropriate? Because I felt the pressure mounting as a parent, like everybody's got phones, Is there an age that you kind of feel like if I have to put a phone in my kid's hand, I'm going to hold off until you say not 10, when might you open up to it?
it's a good question, and kids would freak at the answer, but the real answer when you start getting to 15 and 16, yeah, I'm telling you, there's this middle school age has got to be protected. We are losing the ground in our middle school. And then by the time high school and college gets around, oh, it's you talking about, normalized. Everything is normalized for them. So parents with that generation have to be, yes, they've got to be careful. You can get phones with kids that they can dial so many numbers for safety purposes and all that, but they don't have access to everything. That's what I'm saying. Um, I think a key is the games your kids are playing, know the games they're playing, but have them play them in front of you, with you. Not, if you got to get on the floor and play with them, that's fun, fine. And when that person comes in and they're talking on the headphones to them, or they're typing it to them, you know what I'm saying? They're sending the message about their friend. You need to answer it. Hey, this is Zach's dad. Tell me a little bit about you. You need to be the protector. Dads need to get involved. I'm really harping on dads have got to lead these families. They've got to take care of their kids. So I would say these young kids do not need phone. The games, they want to play the games. Put it where it's safe. Make it safe where they can play safe. And that's really important because it's all used as babysitters now. And there's your danger. You've opened that gap. And so you've got to be cautious with that. But the big thing too, as you said, sitting around that table, have conversations with your kids. Now, don't try to, enforcement is not always the right answer here. You need them to be a part with you. If they start looking at you as, oh, my parents won't let me do anything and all that, you're setting them up to be groomed. That's what you're doing. So it's got to be, let's talk about it. Let me tell you why I'm saying this. Protection. And, and when you've got a child that starts telling you, feels free enough to tell you, Johnny said he got these pictures or this, then start listening. You need that kind of conversation though, that they trust you like that. And that not that you're going to come down on them and go, you can never play with Johnny again. Now, you may not let him play with Johnny again, but there's a way to do that. It's just, I think that what we have is parents learn some things that's going on and then they overreact rather than let's be a biblical model here for them. Let's show them. Let's talk with them. You have to have your child engaged with you now, that they trust you enough that they can say, so and so sent me a picture or I got this. Because one of the things that's going on here that's true, Christina talked about, is, boy, you set yourself up to get bribed. And so if you follow that trail that she just gave you, you follow that trail, you'll find it ending in teen suicide, which is at a 4-time higher rate. But when you hear these, here's the stories you'll hear from the parents. Great kid, no drugs, no reason this would have ever happened. See what I'm saying? But that went with them to their death, and their parents never knew.
I think that list. Oh, go ahead.
I have one thing that I got from the book that you talked about the pressure from other parents. And I think we can also normalize the opposite. And one thing that parents are doing in PTAs is they're making a pact. And maybe not everyone joins in, but the parents who believe in no cell phones, they'll make a pact and say, like, I will not get my kid a cell phone while they're in middle school. So like their whole middle school career, they don't have a phone, and it's normalized because there are other kids and other parents who believe the same thing. So I think your association, is big in all areas, but if you're associating with people who have the same beliefs and the same like protections around their kids, you can normalize the other end of the spectrum too. Like, I had a Motorola flip phone when I was in high school because I was driving and playing sports. But I never had fear that like my parents couldn't call the school and get in touch with me. Like the parents need to I'm not a parent, so take this as a grain of salt, but like you guys need to relax. Like call the school. You don't need to text your kids 75 times a day. It's distracting for them. It's bad for them and a whole lot of other reasons. But like we all survived without having a cell phone in our pocket in school, and the schools are very capable of keeping your kids safe. So, don't feel like there's always a threat. Like the real threat is the cell phone. Like there's lots of dangers. Yes, there's bad things that happened in school, but like the threat you're putting in their pocket every single day. And I think that the statistics we've just heard, like that is a bigger risk than anything that could possibly happen to them in your wildest dreams at school.
That's so well said. I mean, from a parent perspective, you feel that pressure to do everything you can to keep them safe. So we've got apps that track their location, and I can instantly reach out to them, and I have constant access with my kids, and I've done all these things to try to keep them safe. By putting a device in their hand that increases their anxiety, decreases their dopamine, sucks them into an individualized experience of life and isolates them. I mean, you think about that, the diabolical back end of that under the guise of, well, they're going to be safe. And you go, well, all of us, nobody tracked me and somehow we made it home, right?
Right.
Like, yeah. Neo, thank you. Christina, thank you. We're already 45 minutes in, and it feels like that conversation just flew by. I hope everybody listening, just thank you for hanging with us. The Lab Initiative, the goal is the life and beauty of the gospel springing up in the toughest, most difficult places. And that's where light goes to the darkness and says, I beg to differ. And Oak Rock is doing that. We get to do that together by taking these simple steps to help provide funding for the work out there. But even more importantly, kind of today, is for the work right here. And you've given me a ton of things just as a dad that I'll be talking about with my family. And Christina, to your point, as we talk about them as a community, that impact broadens. And it will lead to less and less stories like we woke up to today that almost mirror what you talked about, the two apps that they talked about. It was a 10-year-old girl, Roblox and Discord. And those were the two places that they were being met. So thank you for the conversation. Christina, as people think about, okay, I'm going to do the things that Neo just recommended. We're going to start having a broader conversation, a richer conversation at home, make some changes. But I also want to be a part of what's going on and what you're stewarding with the Lab Initiative. How can people directly get involved and make a difference?
So there's a few different ways. The first one is you can always pray. Prayer is super powerful, and we appreciate your prayer. Please pray for what we're doing at the Lab Initiative. Pray for Buddy Brew. Pray for Oak Rock. Pray for those who are currently in vulnerable situations. Even pray for the hearts to be changed of those who are the predators. I mean, that's all we can really do until law enforcement can step in and we can get them out of the way. So that's the first thing. Pray, share this episode, share the coffee, share conversation. It's okay to have hard conversations. I think so many times we're nervous, like, oh, I disagree with this person, so I can't have a conversation. I had a really good conversation with someone recently, and we were on very different ends of the spectrum, but we understood each other. I was like, I get where you're coming from. And he was like, I get where you're coming from. But like, that's why we all need a seat at the table. So like, we need to have these hard conversations, even if we don't agree. And then on the monetary side, you'll buy coffee. And we have great subscription options you can get. We ship all over the country. So regardless if you're here or in the Midwest or out West, like you can get the coffee. And then if you're not a coffee drinker or you are and you feel like you want to doubly bless us, you can donate directly to the Lab Initiative on the V3 website. And once again, all that money just gets directly sent to Oak Rock. If you have some larger gifts or want to talk about like long-term planning, you can reach out to us and we can figure that out with us or even connect you directly to Oak Rock for some larger donations. My email is on the V3 website, but it's Christina with a CH at VUVIVO.com. Happy to answer any questions there and just continue the work that we're doing. So we're very appreciative of all our listeners, appreciative of our coffee drinkers, and very appreciative of the relationship we've developed here between the Lab Initiative and Oak Rock.
Yeah. Well said, Christina. Thank you for covering all that. Neo, thank you for your work. Please pass on to your team and everybody who's involved in the work out there that we're praying and we're in your corner. And we'll jump back on, I think quarterly, we're going to try to get back together as long as you're willing to just give us updates. So until we hear from you again, we're in your corner, looking forward to the next time we get to share some time.
Thank you guys very much.